Ladies and gentlemen, Mitt Romney wants Trump out of office. Mittens has pretty much made that clear, and he wants to become president again. So don't spit out your coffee or, just look at me in shock. He wants to be president again. Mittens Romney thinks that he could be president again because he's given an olive branch to the media. The media now views him as the one Republican who could stand up to Trump. They can't name anything that Trump has done in terms of working with Russia or obstructing justice or a phone call with the Ukraine or working with Michael Cohen or Stormy or taxes. Or there's a lot of allegations every time they investigate. And this is the opposite with the Golden Moo-Moo. With Clinton, there are actual cover-ups. Okay, people are like, there's no deliberate mishandling. There was no deliberate mishandling at the State Department. Yeah, people who were forced to accept a system of servers outside of the United States government there was no deliberate transferring of top secret intelligence or special access program intelligence. Well, there was, but there was no plot or strategy to hide emails on their part. Yes. So there was this recent email. There was 600 violations found. 130 people are actively being investigated now by William Barr. Then you get the Chuck Grassley / State Department investigation or probe, where they said, there was no systemic, deliberate attempt. These servers were outside of the State Department and of the United States government. There was no access. The State Department had the physical servers. Some of them might have been at the State Department, but the State Department had no access to Clinton's emails, meaning that she deliberately, her team, whether it was Brian Pagliano and others, deliberately with intent utilized servers. The issue of intent is not even the basis for any indictment regarding Clinton, because 18 U.S. Code 793F is the code that doesn't involve intent, but just involves, hey, did you transfer top secret and special access program intelligence? So if anything, it just bolsters William Barr's ongoing investigation. Of course, Democrats and media see it. There was no deliberate attempt. There was no systemic, deliberate with intent, intentional strategy to hide emails. No, it's just the fact that she had servers outside of the United States government, that State Department officials, and that even allegedly or theoretically that America's intelligence community had no access to, that the president didn't even know of. Well, that's enough. In addition to the 600 violations they found in the recent probe. But of course, it's painted as, there was no systemic issue. Of course there was a systemic issue. It just, that's a whole other topic. But why does Mitt Romney want to become president? Because he thinks that he was so close in 2012. I'm explaining to you, you might not think he was so close. I'm explaining to you why he's going to lead the conviction against President Trump. They're not going to convict President Trump in the Senate. They're almost certainly going to impeach President Trump in the House. This is The Hill. Fox's Wallace says well-connected Republican told him there's a 20% chance GOP will vote for impeachment. Fox's Chris Wallace says a well-connected Washington Republican told him that there's a 20% chance enough Republicans will vote to remove President Trump from office in an impeachment trial in the Senate. Okay, so, and real quick, getting back to the Clinton email, how did she transfer the top secret intelligence? How was that even possible? That's the issue. They never asked the right issue. How? How was it possible? So her servers outside of the United States government, where the intelligence community had no access to, had the names of agents working for Brennan. How did they get there? How was her inbox able to accept classified and top secret and special access program intelligence from different departments within the United States government? That's the real issue, and that question was never answered by the latest ridiculous probe nonsense, whatever. And it wasn't really even, it was like a State Department, they had questionnaires, and it wasn't even an issue. It wasn't even a real investigation. They found 600 violations. Then they say, well, we couldn't find intent in a lot of them. It's like, oh my God, ask how they set up the servers. It's not difficult. This is exactly what John Durham and William Barr are doing. Okay, they're the United States government is covering its you-know-what because it can't say, well, Clinton plugged in her outside server into the most top secret servers, and, we just allowed it to happen. Anyway, Fox's Chris Wallace said a well-connected Washington Republican told him there's a 20% chance enough Republicans will vote to remove President Trump from office in an impeachment trial in the Senate. Okay. He's not getting removed from office. Romney is leading the charge. If you look, the liberation of Mitt Romney, The Atlantic, 5 hours ago. Will Mitt Romney fulfill a prophecy and save the Constitution? Los Angeles Times. The Constitution, the only way to save the Constitution is to allow President Trump to continue his presidency since he's duly elected. And he's done absolutely nothing to be impeached, but they're going to impeach him anyway. They'll find something. Whether it's a bunch of nonsense or not, they'll say, well, he worked with Russia, even though Mueller found there was no evidence of him working with any foreign country. He worked with Russia. He obstructed justice. The investigation, by the way, was all started by Clinton purchasing the Steele dossier, and Clinton's running, obviously. So I'll just pat myself on the back right now. She's running. And I will tell you every day, like I've told you every day since 2017 in the Huffington Post, Clinton 2020 is a reality. Get ready for 8 years of Trump. Thank God. President Trump's a great president. You can't say that he's a monster because he signed prison reform legislation and there's record low black and Latino unemployment. Oh, well, but are you engaging in whataboutism? Or I don't know, what other type of rebuttal what's the rebuttal that mitigates anything good? Oh, well, it would have happened under Obama. It would have happened under President Obama. Well, it didn't. And it's happening now, so how is he a monster? Oh, well, first president to step foot in North Korea, record low national unemployment. Okay, that's not... that was a photo op, and so what? There's other things wrong with the economy. Okay, so there's record low unemployment, but the economy's not doing well? How does that work? Yeah, the economy's not doing well, but everyone's working, or more people working than in the past 50 years. I mean, they have to twist themselves up into pretzels because they just can't stand his personality. All of this is personality. The Atlantic article is kind of hilarious. It's like, well, it's not just what a president does. It's how his personality is tied into it. It's like, no, if that's the case, Bill Clinton's personality wasn't anything to write home about. He might have been charming, but the guy was, gave a new definition to the word sleazy. Okay, the guy actually did lie under oath, actually did obstruct justice, and he was impeached, but then they didn't convict him. So it's like, I'll get to in a second why Romney thinks. Well, I'll get to it right now. Look, if you look at the Electoral College map, 332 to 206, okay, the popular vote was pretty close, relatively close. No, the popular vote wasn't even that close. But considering how much money he spent, he got 61 million, and Obama got over 65 million. almost 66 million. But Romney didn't spend I don't believe spent as much as Trump, even though Trump only spent 6.6 million. $600 million compared to 1.2 billion of Clinton's money. She outspent him 2-1. But here's where Mitt Romney, he's probably saying, well, 60 million people voted for me. The popular vote wasn't close, but he's saying, well, 61 million voted for me, and around 63 million, a little less than 63 million voted for Trump. So I can get pretty much the same number of people to vote for me. That's what he's thinking. Sorry, that was my. But then, so he's saying, well, you know what? I can get the same amount of people Trump got to vote for him, so I'm just as popular. So in his mind, he's saying, well, I'm just as popular. I got almost as many people voting for me. Yeah, but he doesn't understand that, well, that might be true, but at the same time, if people were forced to vote for you because you're a Republican and they're conservative in 2012, that doesn't mean that you're just as popular. But anyway, if you look at Florida, he could have won Florida's 50.01% of the vote for Trump, for President Obama, and Romney 49.13%, a margin of 0.88%. So Florida was very close. Okay, so Florida was extremely close, and then it goes from 303 to 235 to, what am I looking at? This is the 2020 presidential. If you look at the 2012 presidential, the 2012, he did not get Florida, and so that is the 2012 actual was 332 to 206. Okay, Florida was only between Romney and Obama, only a 0.88% difference. Romney lost Florida by 0.88%. I'm just trying to tell you how he's thinking, okay? I think it's obviously hilarious. I'm just trying to tell you how Romney views things. Why do you think he's pretending that he's the big moral savior of the republic? He views things in the following manner. So he's going to go ahead and 2012. So 2012, Democrats 332 to 206. If he gets Florida, Romney, it would be 303 to 235. Then he's thinking, well, Pennsylvania and Ohio, I could get. So if he gets Pennsylvania and Ohio, he's won the election. So he's thinking, ladies and gentlemen, after this arduous attempt by me, all he needs to do, in his mind, is like, well, if I just won Florida, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, then I would have won the presidency in 2012. Yeah, that's a pretty... yeah, and he was close in Florida, not as close in Pennsylvania and Ohio. And in his mind, he got almost as many people voting for him, over the 60 million... over the 60 million voter threshold that both Trump and Clinton passed and President Obama passed. So that's Romney's mindset is, well, I can still win. I was close in Florida. I got over 60 million votes. I got almost as many votes as Trump. I could still win. I could still become president. I was already the GOP nominee. Clinton's running again. And after 2020, I'll still be young. I'll still be I'll be 76 4 years from now. That's his, people are still running in their 70s. Look at Bernie Sanders. So Mitt Romney is saying, yeah, I'm going to lead the charge against Trump. because people are going to want a good, wholesome, nice person. I got just as many votes as Trump. I almost won Florida. I could have won Ohio and Michigan if I, campaigned there more or whatever. Everything they like about Trump, I can try to emulate here and there. I am a Republican. I am conservative, but I'm nicer. But I'm more, the press likes me. The media likes me. They eviscerated Romney when in 2012 he was running. He has no chance to become president because the Republican Party has moved away from the Romney, Paul Ryan, McCain types. That's why he doesn't have the charisma, even though he is like kind of an Al Gore type establishment robot figure, which is exactly why he doesn't have the charisma, but which is exactly why he became nominee. But you could just read this article here, The Liberation of Mitt Romney, and here's the angle. The angle is, to Romney, Trump's performance as president is inextricably tangled up in his character. Well, that's another way of saying he's doing a good job, but I don't like his personality. So how do we link his personality? How do we link Trump's personality to record low unemployment? How can we possibly make record low unemployment a bad thing? How is that possible? Can we do that? Can we make record low unemployment a bad thing? If we can link it to how do we make President Trump presiding over the beginning of peace between North and South Korea a bad thing? Oh, well, you know what? He likes authoritarian people. Oh, yeah. Okay, then it's a photo op. It's a photo op. We'll just make some type of excuse. So then Romney says, berating another person. There's a whole industry trying to berate Trump, or calling them names, or demeaning a class of people. He's never done that. It's the media that, he'll say one thing on Twitter that has to do with, a certain person, or he'll say, he made a crude remark regarding undocumented immigrants that that was the only time he actually did say, yeah, but the majority are good people. He never said that, when. That was completely fabricated. But anyway, so he made a crude remark, which I disagree with, but also you compare it to Clinton. Always use whataboutism, always. Because they say, well, it's whataboutism. It's called hypocrisy. You're judging from a vantage point where you acted in the same manner. You're pretending you were different. But anyway, they're like, oh, well, okay, so not telling the truth. The entire media is predicated upon not telling the truth about Clinton, about Democrats, not about Attorney General Loretta Lynch meeting with Bill Clinton to speak about golf brags and grandchildren, and that's not the truth of why that happened. Bill Clinton could have called her up and said, "Hey, let's talk about golf Brexit and grandchildren." No, it had to do with the Clinton email. Controversy, scandal, everything, which is ongoing still. Okay, William Barr, the latest Chuck Grassley thing, which was a failure in terms of public relations, but actually helps William Barr. 600 violations found, and the issue wasn't, it wasn't deliberate. You don't have to deliberately. Intent isn't the factor in any of this. Which, obviously, you don't unintentionally have servers outside the United States government. But anyway, here's the actual quote. Berating another person or calling them names or demeaning a class of people, not telling the truth, those are not private things, he said. If during the campaign you pay a star $130,000, that now comes into the public domain. During the campaign, number one, whatever, we won't even get into it. At least it wasn't the Oval Office. But again, so Romney this is purely political in nature. Romney doesn't care that Trump is a meanie. He had he had dinner with Trump. Not long, 2 years ago or a year ago. Romney would have gotten steamrolled on that debate stage in 2016. Trump would have steamrolled Romney. Look, unless you're Clinton, you really can't turn a loss into some kind of major victory, a Pyrrhic victory, essentially. But unless you're Clinton, you can't turn losses into victories, okay? So Romney can try, he could try as much as he can try to alter and rewrite history as much as he'd like. Oh, I could have won. I could still win. People are just as, 60 million people voted for me. 60 million people voted for Trump. I could still win. Why not? The country is never going to elect somebody who doesn't tell it like it is. There has to be an element. That's one of the reasons President Obama won also in 2008. You have to tell it like it is. You have to say things that, President Obama was against Bush's foreign policy, and he let everyone know this. Then, of course, he continued Bush's foreign policy. But the Senate will not impeach President Trump. They have nothing to impeach him on. The same issues that were issues in 2016 will be even greater. The media will focus even greater, will place even greater emphasis upon them in 2020. Now you're getting this push, don't talk about Clinton's emails, media, because she's running. So it's like, a third party can't have a third party. Can't have another Jill Stein. I think we've put this email thing to bed. There was no deliberate attempt. Nobody cares about that. So when William Barr finds new revelations with the 130 people that are actually under criminal investigation, or let's put it this way, that are under investigation for possibly engaging in crimes, well, for definitely mishandling classified data. When everything pops up again, because it's 2016 all over again on steroids. I mean, did you honestly think, for people who didn't believe that Clinton would run again, did you honestly think we would move beyond 2016? We will never move beyond 2016. Even after 2020, when Trump wins again, it'll still be 2016 and 2024. Because the issues were never addressed. Bernie was cheated. Even he never acknowledged that he was cheated. So it's a big problem. It's a huge problem that will never be truly addressed. It will never leave until these issues are truly, taken care of or, mitigated in some manner. The Democratic Party has to. Well, Clinton's going to completely obliterate it, so that's another story. That's one of the good things that'll happen in 2020. Read my article below in the Huffington Post, 2017. Share it everywhere. Give me your thoughts below. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. I have a fantastic segment on. You have to check it out. Check it out. Thank you so very much. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel right now.